Hello, Dawn Marie LaMonica, and hello, everybody that is tuning up for this amazing LinkedIn Live. Dawn, you're amazing and incredible. You and I met on LinkedIn. You have infectious energy. I almost feel like, we've known each other for 15 years, even we probably had 10 conversations. What you do is fascinating. So, to everybody here, I'm sure you're not surprised. I'm trying to build generational wealth, right? I'm trying to basically help my family go to the next step, and then I want them to stay there. That is exactly what you do. You help families, family offices really maintain their wealth. And I love how you do it. I love your thinking about it. And I'm so glad we're connected. Dawn Marie LaMonica, welcome to our live, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. So I am not super techie, but I'm still on the StreamYard. Should I be on the LinkedIn? Am I looking at the right view? This is
You're great.
me.
We're
Okay.
live, and we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube right now.
No
X did
pressure.
not put us
No
live
pressure.
for some reason. X, why'd you do that? But we're live.
Okay.
Actually, let's ask for some people to give us some feedback to see that we're live. Let's see here. Yes, we have a lot of comments. So
Okay.
we have hello Numan, hello Hamad,
Great.
hello.
Okay. I'm looking at the comments now. I can see them. So I know what I'm doing. I mean, one thing about me is I'm not extremely techie, although I try to learn every single day. And it's so lovely to be here. Thank you so much for everyone who showed up. And thank you so much for having me, Zeev. And just a little bit about me. I've done about 25 years in finance, and I went to Georgetown Law School and Boston College. A few years ago, I transitioned into executive performance coaching, where I was mainly concentrating on corporate, so asset management, because I have a background in asset management. I used to do regulatory and compliance work for private equity and hedge funds and venture capital firms in London. I lived in London for 11 years, but London is just one of 8 different places across the world that I've lived in. So I've traveled quite a bit. And off the back of that regulatory and compliance work, where I was CCO, so Chief Compliance Officer, and then an interim CCO and Chief Operational Officer of Risk, and I had these interim contracts. I was working very closely with executive committees and boards, and I was doing kind of a bit of executive coaching as part of my role. And I just felt this calling to do something really, really different, and to really help people. And I'm not sure if I was really helping people and making the world better doing regulatory and compliance work. And so I did executive performance coaching for free for about 2 years, and then went into it full time. And that kind of transitioned into family office work, mainly because I was doing, as an executive performance coach for corporates, I was doing some work around next gen, and in particular 20 somethings, and in specifically how to motivate them, how to speak to them, how to understand their psychology. Why is it they need coffee breaks? What's this thing about yoga? Why do they have to go to F45? What's Barry's boot camp? Like, why can't we just get them to work? And and also, bridging that gap, that generational gap between 20 somethings and anyone over age 40. So I'm 46. We come from a grit culture, a hustle culture, put your head down. I don't care if you need to work until 3 a.m. culture. Like, I don't care if you have to pee, just hold it and get it done, right? Get the work done. You have 2 very, very different cultures. And within any corporation, you have to get them to work cohesively together. And so someone had heard me do a workshop on next gen, and they were like, maybe you should consider doing something for the family office space. And it's not something that I've been doing a super long time, but it's something that, because I'm very niche, I'm pulling in neuroscience, I'm pulling in sports performance psychology, I'm pulling in spirituality. So in particular, Taoism, Zen Buddhism, and Kabbalah. And I'm pulling in mindfulness practices. So I'm pulling in visualization, hypno breath work, meditation, and sound therapy into what I do with family offices, which is quite different. So it's not like I'm an ex private banker, and that's okay, like for those who are. And it's not like I'm an ex McKinsey. I'm like a fully Dawn. So the blueprint of who I am and what I believe and what I know is transformative and works for the family office space. I've put that into my offering.
You are truly fully Dawn. I meet so many people, okay? And I clicked with you right away, but I didn't even know some of the things that you just shared with everybody. I wasn't even aware of that. So, for instance, I do breast work almost every day. I follow like the Wim Hof method. So that's something that's really important to me. Now, I want to ask you something. Why is it essential for families to align their values with their wealth stewardship? How does that impact like generational transitions of wealth?
Right. So I think it's important because if you think of wealth stewardship, it's about managing wealth in a way that aligns with your values and your goals as a family, right? As a family. So if I had three or four different generations in front of me, or four different members of a family, when I say, what do you value? Do you really think that they're all going to be cohesive and similar? It's extremely rare. So, taking a step back, when we think about legacy for a family unit, again, a family, it's about speaking with each generation and understanding and appreciating, most importantly, the different histories of each generation and the different psychologies and why they value what they value. But then it's about finding somehow a happy compromise between the different perspectives of what they want their legacy as a family to be. So it might be that I work with a client where the family legacy might be slightly different than what they want their personal legacy to be. And where do you compromise? Where do you find the happy medium? So one of the other exercises that I do with families is say, give me 3 words that describe your legacy. What are the 3 words that you want to stand for? And if I have 3 or 4 members of the family in front of me, I promise you, like, if we get one of those words that's the same between 2 or 3 of them, it's like ding, ding, ding. Like we've got something to work off of. But quite often, especially with different generations, so let's say someone age 65 and up and someone age 30 and under, very different. So it's about trying to facilitate cohesion amongst the different members of the family such that they can work together a bit more proactively on where they want to invest their money and how to protect their wealth.
Love that. So I'm gonna probably butcher this, but there's a very well-known saying. There's a few of them. How the first generation kind of makes the money, the second generation is able to maintain it, and then the third generation basically like
Mm.
destroys everything. There's a story about one man walked, the other one took a bus, their son took a Ferrari, and then the grandson is back to walking or something like that. So this is something that's crucial, I think, to a lot of people. Can you talk a little bit about the preservation of wealth? Because I think, and my wife agrees with me too, there's a completely different skill in acquiring wealth and preserving wealth.
Right. And I would say to that regard, that's where having trusted advisors within the wealth management and the investment advisory and the trust and the fiduciary people that the family as a unit really trust, like can kind of come in. I think that preserving wealth is a very different skill set than making wealth. Yes. And also, there's lots of different ways to make money now with tech, with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrency, with blockchain, with NFTs. You can have people now, especially in their 20s and 30s, who may have made 10 million off of a crypto trade. And we've never had that really before. Before, let's call it age 40 up and definitely age 50 and up, they had to work long, hard hours for their wealth. They had to really put their nose to the grindstone, per se, for that wealth. And so that was like a slow burn towards wealth. And again, that doesn't necessarily only define that generation, but it is where that grit and that resilience come through. And then you have people in their 20s and their 30s who may have just like someone literally said, you should invest in this crypto. And then overnight, it they're just millionaires, right? And so for them, trying to understand the psychology behind someone who wants to preserve wealth, right? Now, the person who wants to preserve wealth, that particular generational family member, let's say they're age 50 and up, remember, it took them 20, 30 years to create that wealth. So they might be much more risk adverse because it took them so long to create that wealth, right? Whereas the 20 something or the 30 something might absolutely want to preserve the wealth as well, but they have a much higher risk tolerance because they make money fast. So they're thinking, okay, I'm not sure about this NFT, but it looks really great. And I've heard the guy speak and I kind of like him. We resonate. I've had 2 follow-up meetings. My due diligence team likes him. Like, let's put 10 million into this NFT, right? And the dad or the grandfather is like, F no, that is dumb. Like, I don't trust it. And they don't trust it because that wasn't part of their experience of the accumulation of wealth. So I guess this is a long-winded way of answering the question of like, even how you think about preserving wealth and the risk parameters that you put in place and the KPIs that you think are the ones that you should look at, that's very different for each generation. And making the wealth, well, yes, what it took to make wealth 20 years ago is similar, but a little bit different than what you have today. Today, if you understand tech, if you are fluent in AI, if you understand the potential for blockchain, if you study someone like Elon Musk, Elon Musk for like ages and ages, like you then can begin to kind of see, okay, it doesn't have to take this long. I can collapse time if I invest in this asset class or with this structure. And so, depending upon where you are in your age and in your experience, how you think about these things. And that's why kind of communicating it in a story around the benefits of the benefit of each generation is so important. Because when you have communication breakdowns, which will often happen in families, because no one will ever trigger you like your family. Like, this is a fact, like even a psychological fact, take outside of like a wealth management fact. No one ever triggers you like your family. Like, you can get so just like tight this and be like, you're an idiot and you're an idiot and you don't understand. Everyone shuts down the communication, then they're not open to hearing the benefits and the experiences of the other person. And so that's a bit of a journey. Yeah.
Love it. We have a question I want you to answer, but before that, you're so right. I just sat last night in a meeting, not last night, yesterday, in the afternoon, sat in a meeting with some amazing guys, all of them old school, all of them created a bunch of money in their lives, all of them in very different industries. And the thought was so old school. I almost peed in my pants. The conversation was all about, how many people we have to go knock on doors, which is great. I love it. But like there was no thought about AI or about the technology. So it's so crucial. So how do you feel AI and technology affects, the preservation of wealth in a family? But before that, let's put a pause to that. There's a great question here, and I would love you to take. So what made you feel like you can make a huge difference in this work? What attracted you? Because you're doing something very, unique.
I think that it was about, there's this Japanese word called ikigai. And I think, one, I do a lot of spiritual practice, so I believe in signs and synchronicities. And it just so happened that as I was on this path of, building a funnel for corporate and executive performance coaching, which didn't really talk so much about energetics or spirituality, definitely did talk about Zen Buddhism or Kabbalah or Taoism or meditation, right? A little bit about meditation. I think that people kept on coming to me, and there was something about, when people are open to hearing about my story, it's a little bit unusual. I'm 46. I never got married. I never had kids. I just have my great dog, and I've traveled all over the world, very much on my own. Instead of ever having a permanent job, I would have contractual jobs. I had a very high tolerance for risk and a tremendous passion for solo travel to remote locations. People would hear this, especially within like the high net worth, ultra high net worth space, and they were just very curious. They were very curious about these aspects that I never really talked about in my corporate world. And so I think that sometimes you feel a calling when you speak about something about that you're really passionate about and you really know a lot about, and it resonates, right? It resonates with who you speak to. That kept on happening. It was just weird. It was weird that even people within my, and it, you know, my network is not huge, it's small, but even people that I knew like in hedge funds and private equity from years ago were all of a sudden doing something in the family office space. And then they were listening to me, and they were very curious about spirituality when we'd never even talked about spirituality before. We were talking about the FCA or the SEC or some kind of ridiculous thing about market abuse. We'd never really talked about these topics. So I think that as I started to kind of bravely talk about the things that I knew would work from a transformation standpoint, and I saw people light up and they were like, this is so different. And I think so there's a soul aspect, there's a calling aspect, and there's a resonance aspect. Then quite frankly, there's a practical freaking aspect. I was, as a standard corporate executive performance coach, like I was one of 8 million waking up and saying, I'm a performance coach. I'm a performance coach. Maybe they're a performance coach. Maybe they just hate their career and they wanted to coach, and because they heard there's a lot of money in it. And I felt like I was one in, I was lost amongst the herd. And it was really frustrating because I've been studying neuroscience, spirituality, personal development, leadership, communication, how to do the inner work for myself since 2008, because I graduated from Georgetown Law School with no job in sight, economic tsunami, 30 years old, thought I went to the best school for law school, thought my life was set, and it was not set. And I had a huge amount of debt and no job, and I had to fix my life. My life was freaking broken. And that's why I got into what I got into. It wasn't because I was ever after the money. It's because I was trying to save my damn self. But as a result, like 15 years after '08, like, and more people coming to me for executive coaching, then people are, very curious about the spirituality. I was like, well, Jesus, I've been doing this shit for 15 years. So sometimes I think that we've been conditioned that you have to hustle and work so very hard to create a business that works. And I still believe that that's true, but sometimes it doesn't have to be so hard. Sometimes you can follow the excitement in your heart and the excitement in your stomach. Sometimes it doesn't, we overcomplicate something that doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And if like anyone said, Dawn, can you talk to me about this until like 5 o'clock in the morning, it would be this. It would be talking about how Taoism works with nature to bring you home to yourself. It would be talking about how Zen Buddhism pulls in meditation so that you can deal with reality on a different level. It'd be talking about how Kabbalah pulls in aspects of bread of shame, which is a concept in Kabbalah, which is totally applicable to, candidly, situations where the kid has been spoiled. And I say it straight. So, but I also speak from the heart. So I have the spirituality aspect, and then I have the neuroscience aspect. So I guess I don't know if that kind of answers that part of the question.
I think you answered a lot of questions, Dawn, and I love the flow. It's great. Do you know what Kabbalah means in Hebrew?
You know what? I have it. You do, don't you?
Of course. Hebrew.
Okay, tell me.
Kabbalah is acceptance. Okay.
Yeah.
So the word Kabbalah means acceptance, and something my wife always says, it's you got to be in radical acceptance. And some of our beliefs. So my wife came up to me a couple of weeks back, and I truly had a belief that I need to work hard to create what I want, and I have no problem working hard, and I'll create what I want. But my wife came to me and said, "Hey, why don't you flip that a little bit? Because you keep on telling me, that things that are worth it are worth the effort. And but you're telling yourself something that means everything you're going to get through effort. Why don't you flow?
Yeah.
Why don't you?" And I can flow. Like when I get flow. I just flow. But my own belief limit me because I've been teaching myself, and the world has been teaching me that easy comes, easy goes. Okay. Like that's a saying I've let in my head. Or like if something's really worth it, you got to work really hard for it.
Yeah.
And that it's not always right. Oh, and here is my wife. Zev Works. This is what we talked about. Absolutely. We talk about this all the time. Thank you, my amazing wife, for joining this discussion. So we talk about this all the time. Now, I'm going to transition a little bit, okay? How do we bring new technology, AI, all this new communication? How can we bring a family together with old school, new school in the best way moving forward?
I think that, well, I know in my heart that people are brought together by the stories, by stories. So when I work with a family or ultra high net worth or whoever it is, and maybe they're afraid about AI, they're afraid about tech. One, I come from a point of compassion and I'm with them. Candidly, like there's so much about AI that terrifies me from a fraud perspective. For example, AI could take a video of this whole video of you and I and create a video avatar that looks just like us and tell the computer what we're going to say, and then there I am floating about an image of me. So like I can jump down the rabbit hole with them, and sometimes to earn trust and just to earn residence, I do that, right? So that they understand I know where they're coming from. So there is a lot of fear around AI and tech for several different reasons. One, it's a wild west. We are looking at like new capabilities every week, right? Two, we all want to be relevant, right? That's a very primal need. You want to be relevant. And so some of the fear is that this thing is going to come over and humans won't matter anymore. I won't matter anymore. AI will replace all of these things that I've built that are intrinsic to me, that have my human, my spiritual DNA and blueprint in something that I built. I don't care if it's, they were building leather trousers or like belt buckles, but like it was part of them who built it. And now an AI or a tech tool is going to come in and build it. So I get it. I get the fear aspect, right? And so part of it is really appreciating that fear also from a neuroscience perspective, right? Because our primal brain, it doesn't know the difference between a lion running at us at 180 miles an hour to eat us and something like a new piece of tech coming at us at 180 miles an hour, and all of a sudden we're not relevant, or our money might go away, or the business model that we thought was rock solid is not rock solid because a 15-year-old with pimples on his face is figuring out a way to do it and do it better in a garage of his parents' house, right? And this is the reality. And so our brain is wired to keep us safe, and things that we don't know about are terrifying because our primal brain just wants to keep us alive, doesn't know the difference between the lion at 180 miles or the tech. And so that fear comes in, and then the fear impacts not only our communication and our perception, but our decisions, right? And that's your brain just trying to keep you safe and alive and preserve your wealth. So then that's the fear part. Then there's the excitement part, right? The excitement is like, wow, I just figured out how to use a ChatGPT prompt that took literally 8 hours of what used to take me 8 hours of work. I can now do in 20 minutes. Like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Like, I'm just so excited about this. And so that's an excitement thing. Or like, wow, I can make 5 million off of freaking Bitcoin now that I understand what it is. Or there's excitement over another piece. So there's the excitement about the potential of the AI and tech. And so sometimes what I do, like even on like a piece of paper, is like I write down with a family all the things that make them afraid of the AI and the tech, all of the worst, and we get into it. I'm like, give me a worst case scenario, because it's all there. It's all sitting in our subconscious, all of these fears, right? We go through all of them. And then we'll go through a different piece of paper and say, give me all the best things that you can imagine. How could this, let's think really creatively for your business, for what you invest in, for your vision, for your legacy, for these 3 words that we associate with your legacy. How do we leverage all these different AI tools? And it requires them to flip and think of it in a different way. And the reason why I do this as a writing exercise is because when you the science shows that when you write, it's your prefrontal cortex speaking to your subconscious, right? And it's starting to bridge the gap and create new neural pathways. So it has to be handwriting. You can't type it, because I've had some clients be like, I typed it. I was like, that's not going to work. You're gonna have to get a pen out, and here's the 5 pages of the science explaining why you have to get the pen out, but you have to write about it. So step 1 is understanding the fears and all the excitement and the benefit. And then step 2 is finding a happy middle ground that is bespoke to that family. Every single family is different. Everyone is going to have different risk tolerances, right? But it's about saying, okay, this AI and this tech isn't going anywhere. It is terrifying. There's a lot of things in this life that are terrifying. Like there was a plane that went down in DC, like inexplicably today. My head can't get even around. There's a lot of unknowns. And it's awful, awful. And so there's a lot of unknowns. So what can we do about AI and tech to make it less scary? What story can we start to tell around it? And this is not a story made up of fiction, but sometimes when we take something that's very techy or AI or very inhuman and start to put it in human terms and start to really consider stories, and there's podcasts about this, there's books about this. Sometimes I just do a 5-page paper for someone about it, and start to consider and tell ourselves a different story about the AI and tech. Therein, we begin to open up new neural pathways in our brain to consider a different way of perceiving the quote unquote threat. And then from there, you build in, okay, so what can we do from here? What's the next benefit? What's the next? That isn't saying you're going to put 50 million into an ETF or crypto fund, which could make a great deal of sense. But like it is about saying, okay, meeting people where they're at and informing them in terms that are layman's terms and that make sense, such that the fear starts to dissipate and they start to really engage with the process of possibility. Yeah.
Love that. Let me tell you what I feel about AI, and
Yeah.
maybe you'll connect with it. To me, AI is basically equivalent to the invention of gunpowder. Okay. And all the businesses out there are armies. So everybody's fighting with swords and bows and arrows. And now this, gunpowder. Now, gunpowder is explosive and it's dangerous. You don't know what to do, you'll lose a finger. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't adapt gunpowder, what are your chances to win in a battle with a army that has gunpowder? Zero, basically. So it's here. And is it dangerous? Yes. Does it has bad parts? Yes. But it's here and it's not going anywhere. And our job is to make it familiar to us. And I think that's a great job for the younger generation to help the older generation with it. And I'll give you some examples of what I do inside my family. Okay. And it's super fun. So I have 3 kids, and 2 of them draw all the time.
How old are your kids?
11, 8, and 3.
Oh my God.
Okay, Lily, Adam, and Ethan. So my amazing kids, they draw something. I am not an artist. I don't know how to work with art. So I take a picture, I load it into, let's say, a ChatGPT, and I tell them act as a kind art instructor for my 8-year-old. And the dialogue, I can see the smiles on my kids. I can see that it actually teaches them new things. And it's so much fun. We basically write stories. Like I have my son create characters, we give him names, and then we build stories with them. It's so much fun. We want to play a game. I tell the AI, hey, challenge, the 11-year-old this way, the 8-year-old that way, the 3-year-old that way. We have a game with the AI, have fun, and they all get their same levels. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that I don't remember what I used to do before AI. I don't know how I used to do everything that I need to do without AI. I use everything with AI right now. I'll do a shameless plug for a company I really like.
Yeah.
So you see this Plod?
Plod, yeah, Plod, yep.
On my phone, I record everything, and I love these guys. Not talking about meetings and chat bots, but there's so much more to AI, Dawn, than people understand. AI is not just a chat bot you ask things. AI is going to take over everything, but it's not going to take over your job. somebody else with AI will take over your job. So it's not the AI that's the risk, but if you're not going to adapt and evolve, somebody else will, and they will take your lunch.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And that's why, even though, I mean, God, what did we do? We started off the call with me saying, am I on this or am I on LinkedIn Live? Like, am I plugged in the right way? Because I have StreamYard in front of me. It's the first time using it. Like, and this is how my brain works. But that's like, I'm 46, and that's how a lot of people over age 40 work, like with tech, right? Whereas, like, you've got the people who are 20 somethings and kids who are running around being like, are you retarded? Like, this is so simple. Why can't you just relax, right? But what is that? What was our live example, like a good example of me being afraid that I got it wrong because it's my first time using a piece of tech that I've not used before, right? It was a good real life, and me being 46 being like, am I screwing it up already? Right? Like, and so I think it's really real. And I think when you can play with it, when you get through it, when you have here, I had you on the other side of the conversation, kind of walking me through, and like that dissipates the fear. A lot of times with like some of the AI tools, and I don't use many of them, but with some of the AI tools that I use, I had an AI coach that I hired, and she was phenomenal, and she would like help me as I would have like an anxiety attack freaking trying to figure out my first chat gpt project. I don't know what it's called. It's like a project or something. I mean, and I was, create it in chat gpt, put it in right. And so you need people who are experts to kind of walk you through it. And I think that helps. And then also forcing yourself, and I mean forcing yourself, because your natural brain is going to be like, I don't know it. I don't want to learn it. It's going to require extra energy. Your brain is wired to be energy conservative. So it's not like your brain gets up every day and is like, yeah, learn Italian from scratch. Like, do that. No, your brain doesn't want to do that, because it's not that it wants to keep you dumb or uninteresting. It just doesn't want to use the energy to do something that's uncomfortable, that is going to take a lot of like basically energy in the beginning part, like starting anything. And so, yeah, I have like 4 or 5 people that I watch on LinkedIn for AI information, and I force myself to play with it for 15 to 30 minutes a day. And if it's only 10 minutes, then I give myself credit. And that's just about it. I don't know if that helps. And
that makes so much sense. So first of all, I would love for you to say to everybody how they can reach out to you, follow you. You're incredible and amazing, and I would love to do another one. We've passed 33 minutes without me even saying a few words, which never happens. That means you're amazing, and everybody just loves hearing what you say. We got so many comments, and I think this is so important, and this is a subject that I rarely hear discussed. So so thank you so much for joining us. It was amazing. Thank you for this amazing conversation. And please close us out with a couple of minutes. Tell everybody how they can reach you.
Sure.
And Dawn, thank you, my dear.
Sure. Absolutely. So my website, so on LinkedIn, and my website is dawnmarie.co. So DAWNM like Mary ARI .co. So there's no E, and it's not .com. It's dawnmarie.co. And then you would just backslash or hit on the family office tab. But you can also see that there's an individual's page and a corporate's page. So even if you happen to be on this call and you're like, well, she's very interesting, she only does family office. My main priority is family office and high net worth space. But I definitely work with corporates, and I definitely work with individuals one-to-one. Follow me on LinkedIn. That's where I generally do a lot of thought leadership. And definitely contact me via direct message off of LinkedIn, or just through my email, which is on my website. Again, that's www.dawnmarie.co/family office.
Screen, and we don't have the /family office, but we can add it in a sec. Let me do that. So we have your URL on the screen. In a second, I'm going to have your LinkedIn on the screen. Everybody, Dawn, you're a ball of energy. Like, you have so much going on. I love hanging out with you, love speaking with you. We'll do this again. Everybody, I'm sharing right now the share it here. Hold on.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to just thank everyone who's on the call for showing up. And yeah, feel free. Like I try and do content around things that are interesting to people. So, you know, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're in the family office space or not, just shoot me an email or a direct message with a thought, and I will try and write about it. I love to write.
Sounds good. Everybody, thank you. Everybody, follow this incredible lady, Dawn Marie LaMonica, on LinkedIn. A pleasure, my dear. Bye bye, LinkedIn Live. See you guys soon.
Bye. Bye.